You ever feel like your aim is perfect one moment, then absolute trash the next? Even when you're doing the exact same thing? You might think it's just bad mechanics, input lag, or even placebo, but what if I told you there's an actual hidden trigger inside the game causing your aim to randomly fall apart? This is Crosshair Desync, and in this video, we're going deeper than ever before to break down exactly what's happening, what causes it, and why you've never noticed it before, even though it's affecting every FPS player in the world. When your crosshair is in sync, everything just feels crisp, responsive, and effortless. Your muscle memory takes over, and your shots land exactly where you expect. But the second you trigger a desync event, your aim subtly loses its edge, it gets wobbly, inconsistent, and just feels off. This happens because your crosshair isn't directly tied to your input at all times. It can be influenced by the game's underlying state changes, things like opening a menu, walking past an interactable item, UI interactions, and even proximity to certain in-game objects. In my last video, I showed how walking past an item pickup in Warzone Mobile caused my aim to shift into a desync state. But this isn't limited to just one game, this is a universal phenomenon. Every FPS game has its own set of hidden triggers that reset or disrupt your aiming synchronization without you even realizing it. The best way to visualize this is to think of aim as having two distinct states. 0. Synced aim, this is when your crosshair is in perfect harmony with your input. Your shots feel snappy, smooth, and precise. 1. Desynced aim, this is when your input no longer perfectly translates to your crosshair movement. It feels slightly sluggish, inconsistent, or wobbly. As you play, you're constantly shifting between these two states without even knowing it, triggering desync and resync actions based on your movement and interactions in the game world. At any given moment, you could be in either state when you take a fight, meaning you're literally rolling the dice on whether your aim will feel great or not. And this is just the beginning, because some games have more than just two states. Some have multiple aim disruption layers that stack, meaning you could have a 1 in 4 chance of getting truly synced aim depending on how many hidden desyncs you've triggered. Now you might be wondering, if this is real, why hasn't anyone talked about it before? The answer is simple. It's extremely hard to detect, it happens in the background, doesn't show up in netcode tests, and varies between players. It gets blamed on other factors, players just assume it's lag, bad aim, or input issues. Developers don't even realize it themselves, because it's tied to so many different game systems, fixing it would require rebuilding fundamental mechanics from the ground up. Alright, let's put this to the test in Genshin Impact. If you're an experienced gamer, you should be able to feel the difference. Right now, we're starting in a fully synced state. My movement, my aim, and my camera are all perfectly responsive. Pay close attention to how smooth everything feels, my character moves fluidly, the camera follows without hesitation, and aiming feels natural. Now, let's switch to desynced mode. I'm going to trigger a desync by pausing the game. Watch closely. At first, it might seem like nothing changed, but if you look carefully, you'll start to feel it. My character movement is slightly off, the camera feels heavier, and aiming just isn't as precise. Let's walk around a bit in this desynced state. See how my movements feel a little less snappy. How my camera isn't quite tracking the way it did before. It's subtle, but if you've ever played a game and thought, why does my aim feel weird all of a sudden? This is exactly why. Now, let's resync. I'll pause and unpause the game to trigger a resynchronization. And now, we're back. Instantly, you should feel the difference. My movement is crisp again, the camera follows perfectly, and aiming feels right. But I know some of you still might not see it, so let's make it obvious. Take a look at my minimap. Watch how it updates while I move. Here's synced mode side by side with desynced mode. Notice how in desynced mode, the minimap lags behind just slightly. It's subtle, but it's a dead giveaway that your aim and movement are out of sync. This happens all the time in games without players even realizing it. And the worst part? It's completely out of your control. Or now maybe thanks to you watching this video, maybe it isn't. Let's take this a step further, but first we need to understand that as I mentioned earlier, you can get a secondary desynchronization effect that stacks. There are two in this game that I've found so far, being in proximity to an NPC or pressing the sprint button. This means that there are 4 levels to it now. For this example I'm going to use numbers to make it easier on both of us. 1 is synced, 2 is semi-synced, 3 is semi-desynced, and 4 is desynced. Pay attention to how the characters move in each state. Also, these secondary desyncs can cancel each other out. We start off in state 1, completely synced. Everything feels perfect, aim is sharp, movement is smooth, and camera control is precise. Now, I press the start button, moving us into state 4, full desync. Right away, everything feels off. Aim is sluggish, like there's a slight delay between my input and what's happening on screen. Movement isn't as responsive, and the camera feels heavier, making micro adjustments harder to control. It's subtle, but if you're used to playing at a high level, you can definitely feel the difference. Next, I sprint, which takes us to state 3, semi-desynced. It's not as bad as full desync, but aiming still isn't as smooth, and movement has a slight delay. I sprint again, and instead of improving, we're back in state 4, fully desynced once more. Let's try sprinting one more time. Now we're in state 3 again, semi-desynced, just like before. Now, I press pause, moving us into state 2, semi-synced. Finally, I sprint one last time. Just like that, we're back to state 1, fully synced. Aim is crisp, movement is fluid, and everything feels perfect again. Throughout the game, these desync states are constantly switching without you even realizing it. Every time you sprint, pause, or interact with certain mechanics, your aim synchronization changes. Next, to prove this is a universal effect, we will be switching from iPad to review some pro-level gameplay footage on PC in Fortnite. This is a 1v1 box fight between the Fortnite pro Peterbot and Asian Jeff. When we study this effect in depth, we can notice it in other players' gameplay footage as well as our own. This will be extremely difficult for me as an editor because Fortnite is an extremely high-paced game at the pro level, but we will use the numbers here again to make it easier on us, and I will slow it down so we can see it clearly. For this part we're analyzing the pros' gameplay and guessing which desync state they're in. As I was editing this video I realized something. When putting the numbers on screen at the perfect moment at the same time that the desync switches states, the number kind of pops out a little, giving it almost a 3D effect. In fact, this entire video feels like an optical illusion trick I am playing on you guys. But this is what we are dealing with.
Don't make me, bro.
Make you what?
Full box? No, man! Get me out! Oh, fuck no. 100?
You're
This
one.
Peter piece is crazy,
You're one,
bro.
Jeffrey. You're one, Jeffrey.
Yeah! I'm dead.
To wrap up everything we've talked about, let's break it down. What you've seen today is a deeper look into the hidden factors affecting your aim in games. This isn't just some random, bad aim issue, it's the result of aim desynchronization, triggered by simple actions like pressing the pause button, sprinting, or even interacting with NPCs. While the effect may be hard to spot for most players, it becomes painfully obvious to those with high-level experience. These small desyncs can stack up, creating a massive difference in how smooth and consistent your gameplay feels, and in a competitive setting, even fractions of a second matter. You might think you're missing shots because of your skill or gear, but sometimes it's just the game itself working against you. The more we understand how these mechanics work, the better equipped we'll be to deal with them. Unfortunately, we can't totally eliminate the issue right now, but being aware of it gives us the power to adapt and mitigate its impact as much as possible. So, what do you think? Have you noticed this desync effect in your own gameplay? Are there any specific actions or games where it's more noticeable? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's keep this discussion going. If you found this video helpful or eye-opening, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss future content. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.